It's really spooky in here. I think I heard a noise. What was that? The house is haunted.
No, it's cats.
That was just the cats.
Yeah,
What was that?
cats again.
Again? What was that?
Cats.
Yeah, okay. That was the cats again. Fine. We don't live in a haunted house, but maybe we can read about some haunted houses. Hmm? What do you think? We're gonna read about the haunted houses. Welcome to my not so spooky house. So I have decided for the Halloween season, spooky season, that I wanted to read some haunted house books. Now, I'm not a big scary book reader, as you may have noticed from my channel. I prefer historical fiction and I like, mystery thrillers and that sort of books. I don't read a lot of really spooky books. And I did read probably the scariest one was episode 13 by Craig DeLuey. And I really enjoyed that one, but it did scare the crap out of me. So, but I am going to attempt to scare myself even further by reading some haunted house books. So what I have here for my haunted house books that I am going to read, I picked out 3 and then we'll see what I have time for if I do read another one off of my shelves or not. But I have this one here, which is The Haunting of Ashburn House by Darcy Coates. This one was published in 2016, I think. And I actually found this one through Sid from Sid Bookworm. I'll link her down below. She talked about this book and I was looking for another haunted house book to read. And she made it sound interesting. So I decided to pick this one up. So this is about a house named Ashburn House, and it is owned by a woman named Edith. And following Edith's death, it passes on to her only relative, who is a girl named Adrian. So Adrian comes to the house because she basically has nothing. It says a suitcase, her pet cat, and $20. So she can't afford to refuse. But there are a lot of rumors about Ashburn House. And Adrian moves in and doesn't believe in ghosts, but things start to get spooky. It says there's strange messages etched into the wallpaper, an old grave hidden in the forest behind the house, and eerie portraits in the upstairs hall that seem to watch her every movement. So as she searches through the house, she starts uncovering secrets of a grisly past and then discovers that she may be in danger. So this one sounds like a super spooky book, so I'm looking forward to reading that. Then I grabbed The September House by Carissa Orlando. And this one follows a woman named Margaret. And Margaret and her husband Hal have bought their dream house, which is this Victorian home. But once they move in, they start experiencing some crazy things. And the activity ramps up every year in September when all these different these ghost children start to appear, and there's blood dripping from the walls, and there's something that lurks in the basement that these ghosts are scared of. But Margaret loves this house and is refusing to leave it. They've been there for 4 years, and now Hal has decided he's had enough, and so he's going to leave, and she refuses to go with him. So he walks away, and she doesn't hear from him again. And then her daughter, who's I think she's in her 30 or something, around 30, her daughter comes and calls her up and says like she hasn't heard from her father, and she's getting all worried. And so she decides to come and see if she can figure out what happened to her dad. Only problem is it's September, so the house is very, very active, and Margaret is worried about what her daughter is going to think. They start digging into it and trying to see what happened to Hal, and the hauntings just get worse and worse as the period goes on. So that one sounds really spooky and interesting. And then I picked up How to Sell a Haunted House by Grady Hendrix. I've been wanting to try something by Grady Hendrix because I've been hearing a lot about him on BookTube. And I think he writes stuff that's got some humor to it, which is good because I could probably use some humor after quite a bit of super spooky stuff. But it's also humorous horror, so we'll see how that goes. This one is about a woman named Louise. So her parents have died and she is going home to Charleston so that she can deal with her family home, which it says is stuffed to the rafters with remnants of her father's academic career and her mother's lifelong obsession with puppets and dolls. So that should be good and creepy. But she's going home to deal with it. And she also then has to deal with her brother, Mark, who has never left their hometown and essentially gets fired from one job to another and resents her success. So, but they start looking into it and trying to clear things out. But it says, but some houses don't want to be sold and Louise and Mark's home has other plans for the both of them. So that one sounds good and spooky and interesting. And it sounds like there's haunted dolls and puppets and creepy things like that. So I'm looking forward to that one as well. So these are the 3 books that I am going to attempt to read this month. And yeah, I'm going to give them a shot and see how much I can scare myself. So stay tuned. It's spooky time still. So anyways, I started this one here, The September House by Chris Orland. And I've actually gotten today, I ended up getting 84 pages in. And so far, I'm finding it pretty good. It's not what I expected. I wasn't expecting kind of dark humor, which this is a little bit of dark humor involved. The main character's voice is quite interesting. So the story essentially is that it's this woman and her husband. Her name is Margaret and his name is Hal. And they have always wanted a house of their own, and especially a big old Victorian house. So 4 years previous to the story, they found their dream house for a really good price. And because it was their dream house, they didn't really pay a lot of attention to what the real estate agent was telling them about the various problems with the house and deaths that had occurred there and that sort of thing. And then shortly after moving in, they started to see ghosts and hear footsteps and all of that. And when you pick up with this book, it's 4 years later and her husband has disappeared. He left and she hasn't heard from him. And her daughter who's an adult now, 30, I think, is phoning and she's all worried and stressed about her father and says that she's going to come and see what happened because her mother is very nonchalant about the whole thing. But you also discover in the very first chapter, hi Raven, you also discover in the very first chapter that her mother, Margaret, sees all these ghosts and interacts with them, in particular one named Frederica, who actually makes her tea and all that kind of stuff. And so the ghosts are not what I was expecting. They're a very large part of the story and not like a, mysterious, is it a ghost sort of thing? It is definitely ghosts. And the big issue with the house is that every September, everything ramps up really terribly. And the walls actually bleed and blood runs down the stairs. And then you also find out in the first and second chapters that there's something in the basement that's very evil. And they actually have the basement boarded off. And so you're not sure what is down there, but it's something that's very evil. They won't go down there. And there's cracks appearing in the door now. And it's just the beginning of September. So this is the absolute worst time for her daughter to decide that she wants to come home because she's never been to this house. So her daughter is coming home to look for her missing father, and the craziness ensues from there. So far I'm enjoying it. It's definitely not what I was expecting in that it's a lot more humorous than than I was expecting. I haven't found it really scary at all yet, just because the ghosts are such a big part of it, and there's no like wonder about the ghosts other than some concern about what the heck is in the basement. So I'm not finding it very scary, but I'm finding it quite fun to read. So I will keep reading that, and I will let you know what I think as I get further. So I've made quite a bit of progress now with the September house. I'm actually getting close to the end. I think I have about 100 pages left. I'm on chapter 22, page 237. And it's really getting interesting. I definitely am not really sure what's going on because I've come to the conclusion that our narrator is quite unreliable. So I don't really know what to believe from her now versus what may actually be going on. So that's an interesting aspect of it. There's also a lot of things from her past that are coming out that I wasn't expecting. So that's kind of interesting. Trigger warning for domestic abuse, just in case you're sensitive to reading about that. But it's very, very, very interesting. I'm not finding it really scary at all, because from the beginning, the ghosts are interacting with her and stuff, and so I'm not finding it scary, but I'm finding it psychologically intriguing, put it that way. So I'm hoping to finish this one tonight, and then I can move on to the next one in the haunted houses. So that I'll let you guys know how that goes when I finish it. Hi everyone, update time. I finished the September house. So this one was very interesting. I ended up giving it 4 stars. It was not what I expected. Let's just put it that way. I believe I kind of told you in the previous update that it was a lot more humorous than I was expecting. But about halfway through, I did start to realize that the narrator, Margaret, was actually a pretty unreliable narrator. And there were things that were going on that she wasn't telling you about. So it was a very, very interesting read. I liked Margaret's voice because she was just so nonchalant about all the things that were going on in the house. She was very accepting of the haunting and, just very determined to make things work and to just go with it, which I thought was really interesting. You do find out some backstory as to why she's that way. And you also find some backstory as to why her daughter is the way she is. Her daughter, I found to be a little over the top sometimes, which is part of why I rounded it down to a 4. Her daughter just seemed a little bit too, not sure what the right word is, but just a little over the top, where everything was just so crazy with her. But that was kind of my only real critique on that. It did get me at the end because I was 100% sure it was going in one direction. And then towards the end, it pulled a complete 180 and went a direction that I did not expect at all. And I actually really, really enjoyed the way it ended. I thought it was a very satisfying ending for the story and for the various characters. So I gave that one 4 stars, and I definitely enjoyed it. Again, it's not my normal type of read, and there was quite a bit of body horror in it, to do with the ghosts and the things that had happened to them and everything. But I did really enjoy the read, and I enjoyed Margaret's character, and I found it a very unique take on a haunted house. So finished that one. And I think the next one I'm going to go for is actually, I think I'm going to read The Haunting of Ashburn House, because this one did have a lot of humor in it, and I'm quite certain that the Grady Hendrix one will probably have a lot of humor in it as well. So I thought I'd read something that I think is probably going to be a little bit more serious, scary. And so I think I'm going to read that one next, The Haunting of Ashburn House, and we will see how that goes and how badly it scares me. I'm also going to spend some time now putting spooky books away. They're not all spooky books. There's a few spooky books in there, but I'm going to put some books away and then I'm going to start reading. And yeah, we'll see how that goes. I will take you guys along for the ride. So I have started reading The Haunting of Ashburn House, and I have actually gotten tonight, I managed to get to page 64, which is chapter 10. So far I'm finding it interesting. It isn't really gripping me from the very beginning like I thought it would. I think my main issue is that the atmosphere is sort of, it's spooky, but it's not, I'm not sure what the right word for it is, but it's almost like the main character is jumping to conclusions that don't make sense to me, but would make sense if it was a haunted house movie. Some of the things, like her reactions to things are kind of like, and I mean, granted, she's by herself in this spooky old house with just her cat, but I just find that her reactions to things are just seeming to be a little over the top to me. But I'm still getting to know the character because it's only just, 9 chapters in that I've read. So I really like her cat. Her cat is this grumpy old, big giant tabby named Wolfgang. And nothing had better happen to the cat, or else the book will get like a 1 star from me if something happens to the cat. But so far, she has discovered that she inherited this old house from a great aunt that she doesn't remember. And she's alone. Her mother has passed away from an illness, and with all the medical bills and everything, she and her cat are kind of homeless. So she jumps at the opportunity, gets there, and finds that it's this crumbling old house. And she knows nothing about this great aunt other than she remembers. There's a prologue scene at the beginning when she's a little girl, and her mother is carrying her out of the house and running for the car, and she just remembers certain details of it, but then she had kind of completely forgotten it. And then when she gets there, she recognizes the house. And so the memory comes back to her. She thought it was a dream, but the memory comes back to her. And so that's kind of spooky because you don't know why her mother was running from the house and why she was, why she was in such a panic and everything. And there was a little bit of blood on her face, and, you don't know any of those details. So, but it's just coming back to her now. And the only people who could have told her what had happened have died. So that's interesting. So where I'm at now, some of the young women from town just showed up kind of as a welcome party, or a welcome group to bring her some food and stuff, but they want to also see the house because it's the haunted house in the neighborhood that people told all spooky stories, forever about. And so she's going to take them on a tour of it because she's hoping to make friends with them. So that's where I'm at now. And the house just in general is very spooky, and there's a lot of weird portraits on the walls and things like that. And no mirrors in the house. There's just messages scratched into the wall that keep saying no mirrors, no mirrors. So I think it's probably going to get really spooky pretty soon. But yeah, I'm just trying to get into her writing and everything. And like I say, it just seems like some of her reactions are a little bit over the top. But then again, I mean, I haven't, showed up at a extremely spooky old house in the middle of the night. So, but again, I love her cat. So we'll keep going and see how I enjoy this book. Pumpkin, what you doing? Should we walk back up to the house? So, a little update on this rainy afternoon. I have read up to, I think, what was that, chapter 18 in the haunted house book, The Haunting of Ashburn House. And it's getting spookier and spookier. I'm really enjoying it. What do you think, pal? Huh? What do you think? Do you like scary books? Don't eat the cat's tail, okay? Anyway, yeah, it's definitely getting spookier, and I'm enjoying it. My only issue is that it seems like a lot of the characters have very, very like a lot of overreacting to things. Like at first it just felt like it was like the main character. I'm going to just walk over here to the fence. And at first, I thought it was just the main character. Hey, this is Cookie, the little blind girl. But then one of the other characters, her reaction to something that happened was just like totally over the top and, didn't really make logical sense. Like, I don't really want to say anything because I don't want to do any spoilers, but, she'd met these girls like the day before, these other women from town, and she'd met these other women from town, and then something happens that night. And then when one of the women shows back up at her place, she's like totally like acting crazy, but she's not meant to be like a crazy person or anything. And it has nothing to do with the the way the story goes. But hi girls. But yeah, but her reaction was just like so over the top to me. So that's my only beef with it so far, but it is getting very spooky and scary. So yeah, it's definitely interesting. I'm going to keep doing some reading here while I water the horses. So hi, Putty. Hello, Putty. Hello, Putty. Look at those big donkey lips. Hello, little ladies. Dixie and Honey. Oh, and when you have donkeys, you end up doing this all the time. Scratching bums. Hi, Honey. Hi, Cookie. Hi, Cookie. So I finished The Haunting of Ashburn House last night, and I ended up giving this one 3.5 stars. I found that the overall story I enjoyed. There was quite a big twist towards the end that I didn't really see coming, although I kind of suspected the possibility of it. The main reason why I didn't do it any higher is because I felt that the characters were a little bit cookie cutter, and their reactions to things, especially towards the beginning, were quite over the top. Once it got further into the book and it was more obvious what was going on and that it was actually, supernatural things that were going on, then their reactions seemed a little bit more normal. But at the beginning, there were just some reactions that were really, really over the top. But I also really liked the way it ended. I thought it ended really well. And so it was a very interesting read. It's not the kind of book that I normally read. I don't mind the more humorous ghost stories, but I do find ghost stories like this one quite scary. So it's not my normal type of book, but I did enjoy this one. And now I'm going to move on to the next one, which is going to be How to Sell a Haunted House by Grady Hendrix. So we'll see what I think of that one. I have a feeling that one's going to have a little bit more of a humorous tone to it just because it's Grady Hendrix. And I've heard that a lot of his stuff has that bit of humor to it. So we'll see what I think of it. everyone, little update here. I have been reading How to Sell a Haunted House by Grady Hendrix, and I have actually gotten pretty far. I think I'm on page, where am I? 164. So I've gotten pretty far in it. It's very interesting. It's taking some turns. I don't remember if I told you guys much about this story, but this follows a woman named Louise. And she grew up with a brother named Mark, and her brother, throughout her whole life, was essentially spoiled by his, in particular his mother, but also his father, and, never had to work for anything. He always had his way paid and that, and she always had to work hard, and so she's resentful of him. So at the beginning of the book, Louise gets a phone call from Mark, and he tells her in a rather unpleasant way, anyways, that her parents were killed in a car accident. So she has to drop everything and go back to her hometown of Charleston. She lives in San Francisco. She has to leave her daughter with her daughter's father and then heads back. And she and her brother do not get along. They start fighting immediately over everything from what they're going to do with the house to, what needs to be done with their, for the funeral, all that kind of stuff. But at the same time, their mother was a puppeteer, and she ran like a Christian children's puppet ministry. And so their house is full of dolls and puppets. And from the very beginning, when Louise gets there, things seem off. There's some things that aren't in the place that they should be. The TV's on and the remote control is sitting in between these two dolls, and just things are off and they don't seem quite, it seems like there's something going on. And I don't find dolls particularly creepy unless they're like the really old fashioned sort of dolls with like the really creepy faces. But I still have dolls from when I was a kid, and, I don't mind dolls. But puppets really creep me out, and especially, I think probably because of the whole ventriloquist thing with the ventriloquist dummy, and they always look so dang creepy. And then the idea of dolls coming alive is very creepy. And so I found this, I had to stop last night at about like 11 o'clock with my reading because it was getting a little too creepy for me with the dolls and the potential for something happening, because they're hearing all kinds of noises in the house too. And it's definitely creepy. I'm finding the parts about, family and dealing with grief and everything are quite interesting. I wasn't expecting quite the level of, depth that there was involved in that. And the how you feel about siblings and, all those sorts of things. It's very interesting that way. But definitely some creepy elements. So I'm going to keep reading that today. I want to try and maybe even finish it today, because today's my day off from doing anything else. So I have one other book that I'm working on as well, but I am hoping to maybe get this one finished today so I can get this vlog out before too long. And yeah, I will let you know how badly it scares me, because so far it's looking like it's going to get there. So I'll let you know. So, little update. I'm just out doing chores. I'm giving little Miss Flea here some extra food. Hi, Flea. It's hard to see her there. She's getting some oats and oil because she hasn't been picking up as much weight as I'd like before winter. She had her teeth done last week, so that should help her. But just adding some supplements to get her to gain some weight. So anyways, while I'm doing that, I thought I'd update you guys. I have gotten about 60% done now the How to Sell a Haunted House by Grady Hendrix. And I gotta say, this book is a little bit, the word I would use to describe it is unhinged. Not my usual kind of book. I am actually enjoying the writing though. I find the puppets creepy as hell. And I have to admit that I never thought in my lifetime that I would be reading the words, wet, rotting puppet hole. So anyway, it's very, very creepy. I have about 40% left, about 200 pages. I'm still hoping to finish it tonight. We'll see how that goes. It's, as you can see, a lovely, very cloudy, icky day today. So anyways, I'm just going to keep reading this evening. I'm kind of taking today off of doing much else because I had a pretty massive headache today. Or yesterday. I had a migraine yesterday. So kind of taking today off to just do some stuff like that. So anyways, I'm going to get back to watering horses and letting little Miss Flea here eat her special food. And I will let you guys know when I finish the book. But yeah, so far it is creepy as hell. Very disturbing, a little bit unhinged, and good writing, and interesting. That's all I'll say. Officially done reading this one. I ended up giving How to Sell a Haunted House by Grady Hendrix. I ended up giving it 3.5 stars. It was actually really good. It just wasn't my style of book. So that's where it didn't get quite as high a rating. Put my sticky things off of there. Didn't get quite as high a rating as some of the other books that I read. But for my first real strong foray into horror and everything, it would definitely kept me going. I guess the things that I liked about it, the storyline kept me going. I found the bits of humor quite funny. I found it good and creepy. There was a lot of good character development, that sort of thing. The things that knocked it a little bit down for me were that I had to suspend my disbelief sometimes, in that there were certain things that happened towards the end that they survived rather easily. Like they were, struggling, but they did survive them a little bit easily, in my opinion, for the level of hurt that was being dished out. So that took a little bit away from my suspension of disbelief. And then just, I thought the characters were really good, but there were some times where they were really over the top. I liked the direction that it took the story, though, and I liked the ending. yeah. So anyways, that one got 3.5 stars. So that means that I have read 3 haunted house books now. So I have How to Sell a Haunted House by Grady Hendrix, which got 3.5. I had The Haunting of Ashburn House by Darcy Coates. That one I gave 3.5 as well. And The September House by Carissa Orlando, which I ended up giving 4. So these were very spooky, and I'm glad I tried reading them. Like I say, not my usual cup of tea, reading haunted house type stories, and in particular, rather violent horror type haunted house stories. I'm used to more of the psychological thriller sort of haunted house stories. So this was an interesting little foray for the spooky month, and I hope you enjoyed following along with me as I scared myself. And I will see you guys soon on my next video. Let me know if you've read any of these or what your favorite haunted house book is, because I'd be curious to see, because I might try and do some more haunted houses next year in spooky season. So let me know what you think, and I will see you guys on my next video. Bye.